um, before I forget. So this event is recorded, so we can possibly use it in the future. And I also want to say it's good to see some of y'all's faces. We do want to limit the use of video so we don't have a Zoom crash, but I think at the number that we're at right now, it's fine. And we also have everyone muted to avoid all the background noises. We'll be taking the questions in chat. If you would like to verbally say a question, please let us know in chat. But if you're happy with just chatting the question, we encourage you to do that. And how the event will be run is we're going to have some introductions. We're going to go over a short presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions. We've already had some questions submitted already, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Share. Okay. So, Jody, do you want to start with your introduction?
Hi, everybody. And again, I second what Sarah said. Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name is Jody Allen, and I am an assistant professor of history at William & Mary, and I'm also the Robert Francis Ings Director of the Lemon Project.
Do you want to say anything more about what you do with the Lemon Project other than everything?
No, I think that's enough.
Okay. Well, my name is Sarah Thomas. I'm the program manager of the Lemon Project, and you probably received some emails from me. If you've ever received Lemon Project emails, I do the weekly email, I do all the behind the scenes things, I do the social media, and I'm really excited to talk with y'all today and answer some of your questions. Juwan?
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you all. My name is Juwan Johnson, and I'm the Mellon Postdoctoral Fellow with the Lemon Project. New to this project, so I'm really excited with all of the wonderful programs that are happening virtually, and brought along here to work along with the descendant community on various projects ranging from genealogical research as well as some pretty exciting opportunities that we're developing for William & Mary students. So again, I'm excited to be a part of this project and excited to be a part of the William & Mary community.
Thanks, Jawad. Molly, would you like to go?
Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Shiloh. I'm the American Studies graduate assistant for the Lemon Project. It's my first year, so I'm just starting to get my feet wet, but right now I'm doing some archival research on some of the past presidents from the college and sort of looking into their biographical history, and of course seeing, always looking for the presence of enslaved persons in the campus.
Thanks, Molly. Caroline?
Hi, everyone. Good to see you tonight. I'm Caroline Watson. I'm a second year MA student in the anthropology program, historical archaeology actually, but I'm the anthropology graduate research fellow for the Lemon Project. This is my second year with the team. I'm really excited to be working with everyone again, and to be short, I handle research and projects related to archaeology at William & Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I also want to point out we have students that are part of the Lemon Project. We have an application process in the spring. Undergrad and graduate students can join and help support our work. And we're not having them in here tonight, but they are definitely an important part of the Lemon Project team. Okay, I'm going to click ahead, Joe.
Okay, so we have 4 basic goals that the first 3 were initiated the first year of the Lemon Project, so back in 2010, based on the resolution that the Board of Visitors passed in 2009. And the first is to do archival research. That's not all we do, but certainly that's a very important part of what we do to fully understand and then to be able to share with you all the full history of William and Mary. The second goal is to build bridges between the university and Williamsburg and the greater Tidewater area, and specifically the African American community, as mentioned in the original resolution. The third goal is to work to establish an environment with others to establish an environment on campus that's comfortable and supportive of all students of color in particular. And this fourth goal is somewhat new as of, I guess, 2018, 2019, is to continue our work with the University Studying Slavery Consortium. William and Mary was one of the founding members. And this wasn't a goal initially because we were the second institution to be funded to do this kind of work. Brown was the first. But since that time, the University Studying Slavery has grown into a movement. And so there are well over 60 universities and colleges in the consortium, and 5 of them are located in the UK. So this is not only national, it's an international effort because slavery was a part of just about every college and university, and certainly in the economy, the world economy in many ways. And so that's why number 4 has become important and was not included initially because we had no idea where this was going. So those are our goals. One of the things, as Molly mentioned, we're always looking for the presence of slaves or enslaved people at William and Mary. This list, the first list we had, I think, had something like 62 people on it the first time we made it public. We're at 187 individuals now. Some of them, we know at least a first name for them. Some of them, though, you'll see here, unnamed person. Sometimes it's an unnamed wheelwright, an unnamed woodcutter, an unnamed carpenter. And so we're going to do our best to put as many names to this list as possible. But this list will go on the memorial that the college is planning, and also there will be a way to add names as the research continues. Okay. Just wanted to share with you some of the primary documents that we found in the archives. This is a list from 1754 that includes the names of students. At the top, you'll see scholars. It also includes 3 Native American boys who came to campus in 1754. And then at the bottom, it says Negroes. And we think that these are boys, body servants who were brought to campus with the enslaved students. I'm sorry, the white students. And there was a fee that was involved. So if you brought someone to campus with you, you had to pay a fee for that. So this record was found in the bursar's office records. So, and you see again, the Black people on this list are not named. They are Graham's boy, Braxton's boy, Carter's boy, Whiting's boy, and so forth. Excuse me. Allergies, don't worry. So this is the list. This was a list found, well, it had been in the archive since the 18th century, but a graduate student located this when she was working on her dissertation. And there are 21 names on the list. And you see at the top, they indicate the condition of some of the people. So almost an invalid, and then, excuse me, Effie, who's not much better. But this is the first time we saw the name Lemon. When you see, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but this is Lemon. And this is how the project was named, because at the time the project was being named, he was the individual we knew the most about. But of course, he has come to represent all of the enslaved, the known and the unknown, at William and Mary. Okay, and this is our list of upcoming events that we would like to invite you to. Most of them, if not all of them, are remote. But these are, if you want to get a regular updates on our upcoming events, you can just send your email to the Lemon Project at lemon@wm.edu. And you will be added to the the listserv if you'd like to be able to get the list. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Jody. I will send out actually a follow-up email to everyone who registered, so they can sign up for the listserv if they would like to. Let's start out the questions. We've got a question about one of our signature programs, which is the Symposium, our annual Spring Symposium. And we have a question about whether the presentations have been recorded, or where can they find any information about past symposiums. So it's on our website. I can put up a link in the chat where you can find that information. Actually, none of the past symposiums have been recorded. We did not record any symposiums. Do you want to talk about how the symposium, the first one that started it all, and how we've grown since then, Jody?
Well, excuse me, the first symposium took place in 2011. And actually that one and the next two took place at the Bruton Heights School in what's now, I guess, part of Colonial Williamsburg. But it was the segregated school for African Americans, K through 12. But it was also kind of the social part of the community. It was the site of dances and movies, because Blacks could not go to the theater in town. It was the site of the USO during World War II. And so it was really kind of a central place in within the community. So that's why we started there. We grew out of it, and we're happy to say that the community followed us to campus. And so we still have some of the same people. There are a few people who have not missed the symposium. As Sarah said, all of the programs from 2011 through 2019 are on the website. And you can see who, and we've grown from, and initially we didn't have a keynote speaker. Initially we did panels of administrators and local members of the community talking about different topics, and it's grown to where we have people from all over the country who come to give papers on their research related to slavery in the university. The coolest thing, though, too, is we have people from the community who give presentations on their research, and so that's important to us. The students. Sometimes there's students in classes who do papers that they want to present. Also, we work with a group called, a program called Branch Out through the Community Office of Community Engagement at every Martin Luther King weekend. It's a, excuse me, it's a kind of stay on campus trip for that weekend. And those students will present their work and their projects also. So it's really become a really kind of faceted opportunity to come and share and greet each other and learn, from each other.
We've had some questions about some of the renaming of buildings like Tyler, discussions about the Thomas Jefferson statue. So I was wondering, Jody, if you could, well, we know that the President Rowe, made a working group on the principles of naming and renaming. And so this group is not part of the Lemon Project. It's certainly our research informs the principles of naming and renaming working group. But I was wondering, Jody, if you could talk about any of the principles of renaming and renaming and your role in that.
Well, the principles actually, because I don't have them memorized, but the principles can be found on the working group naming and renaming website. Also, you can also make a public comment there. There's a link that you can comment on. But we call the PNR, Principles of Naming and Renaming, and what we're doing is setting up the criteria, which we will be giving to the president and to the board, and the decision on what happens is theirs. And like I said, the actual principles are on the work group. Sarah just put up the link. And every, we're discussing, as you can imagine, certainly the Jefferson statue has been being discussed for a long time on campus. And that, we're all those things that are coming up in the question. We got over 300 pages of public comments. And so we're going through those, and they're from yes, change everything to don't change anything. And so there's a range there. And so it's a very complex question. A lot of people have very strong feelings, on either side about this topic. So this is not easy, but again, like I said, the president and the board will be making the final decision, and we're trying to be as thoughtful as possible as we develop and make these, the criteria and make these suggestions to them.
Thank you, Jody. And along those same lines, questions about working towards a complete history of the university. I know we have a question about how on the website of a history section of our website, it has no mention of any of the enslaved people who constructed the Wren building, and anything along those lines. And that's something that we've been talking about for a long time. So I wonder if you could talk, sorry, there's a storm, talk about possibly the work that we do towards this more complete history. And yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, certainly websites, the website, the general website needs to be updated. There's, no question about that. But with what we try to do, at least with the Lemon Project website, is to keep it updated as quickly as possible. Things change, very rapidly. But all of the research that's being done, student papers, We have, different people who are just interested in this, in the work, who are reading and sharing information with us. And so we're working very hard, and we've actually in our team meetings are talking about how to update and what changes to make to our website. But we will also be suggesting and making suggestions to update the campus of the university website to reflect what we're finding on it. So I think that was, I appreciate the question, and we're on it. So.
And in talking about our research, I know, Juwan, you're a new part of the team. You started about a month ago. So, you're getting started in this very important work on the descendant community. I wonder if you could talk more about your work, what you have been doing so far, and also what you're doing with students, because that's really important too.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So far, being that I'm new to the program, is mainly getting connected with the community. And so that's one of my immediate goals, is connecting with individuals who have been tied to the project, who are doing genealogical research, who may need more insight in terms of the resources we have available, our digital archives and the like, as well as connecting with other surrounding organizations, such as the Afro-American History and Genealogical Society, which I am in communication with there in terms of the chapter that's in that near Williamsburg. The thing I'm most excited about presently is the course that we're designing called Going Beyond the Archives. And it's a research method. It's African American history research methods as well as resources. And so still building this course, and it will be an online class to be taught in the fall of 2021, open not only to students, but as well as community members. And so I'm really excited about the development of that. And we'll be, of course, as we further develop the course, we'll be definitely sharing sharing the developments, whether it's on our social media platforms as well as our website. So as time goes on, we're definitely releasing more information about that course development. And but again, I feel free to anyone who would like to reach out to me via email. Love to get more acquainted with those in the community who are engaged in their family history research and wanting to know of ways that we can also collaborate as we move forward with research related to this particular project.
I'd just like to add to Sarah that how glad we are to have Juwan, and we've wanted someone in this to do this work. For almost from the beginning, I would get emails or phone calls from people saying, I think I might be descended from someone who was enslaved at William and Mary. And we just didn't have the bandwidth to do it or the expertise to do it, because not every historian is a genealogist. Everybody thinks they are the same, but they're not able to hopefully find these connections and find the descendants of the people that William and Mary enslaved. But also, next summer, Juwan is going to be offering a workshop so that people can just come and learn how to do genealogy. So that's something we're doing. It will be free to the community. So. And this is all part of, if you saw last summer, the articles that came out about the $1 million Mellon grant that William and Mary received, and part of it is this is paying for Juwan's position. So.
Juwan, can you just talk very briefly about the research that you did before you came to William & Mary, about your work before you came to William & Mary?
Okay. I've done a lot of work prior to coming to William & Mary, but I will start out with, I don't profess to be a professional genealogist. I come from a public history background, and I worked started my work professionally with the Central Arkansas Library System, the Butler Center for Arkansas Studies in Little Rock. which is an Arkansas History and Genealogical Research Center. And mainly worked on a project there called Ruled by Race, where we were collecting interviews throughout the state and developing materials to be utilized in secondary education that dealt with issues of racism, namely in the South, particularly in Arkansas. And so I also worked for the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center in Little Rock, Arkansas, as Director of Research and Interpretation. And in that particular museum, also developed the Genealogy Resource Center. A lot of my work at that particular museum was the development of scripts for our, not only our docents, but also the research that was displayed in our exhibits. So developing script exhibits as well. In terms of my dissertation, which of course I'm very excited about, I explored, it's called Heritage Terrorism, and it's dealing with the burning of African-American churches and the impact that that has on communities, as well as looking at the broad history of racialized terror against Black cultural spaces. And in most of my projects that I participated in, I've been heavily engaged with the community. And so I'm definitely interested in this community collaborative type of work. And so that's why I'm really excited about this project, because it is a collaboration, not only with colleagues at William & Mary, but also those who are deeply invested in this story within the community. And so I'm looking forward to this. Like I said, it's one of the most exciting parts of my work is fully engaging those even outside of the academy who are interested in this type of work.
Thank you, Juwan. The next question I'd like to ask, and then also show some show and tell, is I wonder if you could talk about, Jody, talk about the dawning of the Kente, and I can show this when you when you talk about it, how that got started and why it's so important, one of the important things that we do at the Lemon Project.
Sure. Well, dawning of the Kente is a rites of passage ceremony that takes place Friday evening of commencement weekend. And it's open to all students, but it's geared toward those students of color. And it's an opportunity for the students to celebrate, to start a new tradition at William & Mary, because there are lots and lots of traditions at William & Mary, but most of them began before people of color could be here as students. And so this is a new tradition that embraces all the students. And so we started off in 2012 was our first year, and we had about 50 students who were involved. And let me back up and say, I saw this started, as far as we can tell, in 1992 at Westchester University in Pennsylvania. I saw it, I went to my nephew's dawning of the Kente ceremony at UVA, and I thought, we should be doing this at William & Mary. And so the next year I talked to some key people, and everybody was on board with it. And so we figured out how to make it happen. And one of the different things that seems to be done at most other places, it's usually like maybe the president or the provost or someone like that who dons the students. But what we do at William & Mary is the students get to choose who they would like to don them. And so it might be a parent or both parents. It might be a former roommate. We've had graduates, friends who donned each other. It could be a professor. It could be anyone who you felt was significant in your life. One year, probably one of the most moving we've had that I can remember is when Lynn Briley, who was one of the first 3 women who in residence, who was allowed to, when Blacks were allowed to live on campus, she was one of the, what we now lovingly call the Legacy 3. And Lynn was a high school principal, And she encouraged one of her former students to come to William and Mary. And he invited her to don him at the donning of the Kente ceremony. So we thought that was really a beautiful moment. But there's a lot of crying and a lot of laughter that goes on. You know, we've had parents and students dance across the stage. It's a wonderful time. It's very celebratory. And I was so sad that we had to cancel 2020. But as Sarah's going to show you, as she says, she has some show and tell. We did order the stoles for 2020, and so as we get the mailing addresses of those students, we are mailing them out to them, so they will have their stole.
Yes, I've mailed about 50 so far, so some should already have it. Thank you for that, Jody. And thinking about the donning of the Kente and the creation of this important tradition in this campus that has so many traditions, had me thinking also about how there is a brick wall between William and Mary and the community. And one thing that we do at the Lemon Project is to try to break down this wall, and that we're actually breaking down this wall with the memorial. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the memorial, and we're just so excited about the memorial.
Well, the memorial was back in 2007 when the students called on the student assembly, called on William and Mary to study its history, to make that history public, and then to establish a memorial to the enslaved at William and Mary. And so this is really kind of the culmination of our response to that student resolution. Now, of course, the next year, faculty passed a similar resolution, and then, the year after that, the Lemon Project was established after, Robert Ames came to campus and did his work, and then submitted his report to the Board of Visitors. And so that memorial, though, we started in 2014 with a class, and I know there is at least 2 people from the class on this call. We opened up, there were, I think, 15 or 16 people in the class, but I set aside a certain number of spaces for people in the community if they wanted to take the class. And so we had 3 people from the community. We had traditional undergrads. We had 1 grad student, 2 administrators. I think that was kind of the general mix. And so the class was to kind of get us, I co-taught it with Ed Pease, who teaches architecture and art history. And he also has his own, he's a partner in an architectural firm in Williamsburg. And so I did the historical piece, and he did the design and thinking about design piece. And so out of that class, the students were invited to establish to design a memorial on their own. And then they had to write a request or a letter to the Board of Visitors about why we needed the memorial and why their memorial was, should be selected. And President Reevely came to class and saw those presentations. And so from there, we went to what we named the Lemon Project Committee on Memorialization, which we lovingly call LIPCOM. And so that literally since spring of 2015, we've been working toward the memorial. And we've, I guess it was approved one of the things that came out of the committee was that it needed to be a different kind of process. It needed to be a competition and not a call for RFPs. It needed to be open to anyone who wanted to enter. You didn't have to have particularly good, drawing skills. You didn't have to be a professional. As long as you could write the narrative and communicate what you were looking for, and what your plan or your idea meant in the narrative. And so we did get a really wide range of people. We got 84 entries. 80 were eligible. Some were not. Well, one was not, was mailed directly to me, and that wasn't the process. And we had, a couple that were late, and so, but 80 were contenders, and we had 9 jurors. And if you look at the website, because if I try to name everyone, I may forget, but I know there were 2 who were involved in designing the African American History Museum at the Smithsonian. We had an alum, we had an undergrad, we had William and Mary faculty. And so it was a wide range of people. Only two people knew, and none of the jurors knew, and I didn't know who had submitted. And that was because of making sure we kept everything, the administrative piece, correct. That we knew who had entered, and thank you, Sarah, knew who had entered, and that the name and the proper design were connected. And so the process was blind from beginning to end. They selected 3 designs, and the 3 designs went to the president, who selected 1 and presented that to the Board of Visitors. And so it's about, it's happening. We've been working on this for a very long time. But it's happening. We're looking to break ground, hopefully early, sometime in January or February, and that barring any kind of problems, we will be able to unveil it, so to speak, at Homecoming 2021. We will be outside without masks, and everyone will be healthy. That is my claim. So I don't know if I don't know if I answered everything, Sarah, but if there are other questions, you all can type them in if I skipped something.
Yeah, just that the memorial is also with that wall.
Oh, right. The wall around the older part of campus, one of the things that we were told early on with the Lemon Project is that a lot of African Americans in the community saw that wall as a real barrier, not as a decoration, but as a barrier to their entrance to campus. And so the memorial is going to be breaking through that a section of the wall, where it is, where it's located. And so that's another way of our trying to say, you are welcome, please come. This wall is now, whatever's left of it, it's just decoration. It's just decoration.
And so our next program is a Lemons Legacies Porch Talk. Most of our programs are, and what makes them different about this year is that we'll be virtual, so we can't share a meal with you all. But I think the principle of what we're trying to do in the Porch Talks remains the same. So I was wondering, Jody, if you could talk about the goals of the Porch Talks and how they got started.
Well, the Porch Talks grew out of the first dining of the Kente we had. And I think, again, people were excited. We were happy that it was happening. But one of the things we did not expect is the number of students and parents who came up to us afterwards and thanked us for doing it and said that this is the first time I have felt a part of really felt a part of William and Mary. And it broke our hearts because this was commencement weekend. You know, so we were happy that this had happened and they were happy with it, but we were not happy that this was the first time they had really felt that were part of William and Mary. And so again, we gathered some people together. We spent that whole summer kind of talking about what can we do about this. And we went from everything from, you know, a freshman, starting freshman year, working with, you know, students who wanted to be a part of it. And we would work with them, you know, every year, and we would end with the donning of the Kente. Well, no one had the staff or the finances to do that. And so the more we talked, we ended up with what we call Lemons Legacies Porch Talks. And the idea of the porch, of course, is you're around, you know, sitting around talking, you know, to your mentors, your elders, so to speak, or what have you. And so, and we had, they either take place over lunch or dinner. And so there was students, faculty, staff, and community members who were invited. And we, you know, we had everything from what, you know, for freshmen, you know, what they wish they had known before they came to college. We had one after the Zimmerman verdict or trial was over. We had one on when the memorial was first announced, talking about memorialization and what that would look like. And so we've had mindfulness. We've had a lot of different. We had an alum who contacted us and said he had a pretty extensive, and it is a pretty extensive Negro League collection. And so he came and did a presentation, and you know, and he had, you know, everything was set up so people could walk around and see what was what. And so we, so we kind of do them on everything. We don't do as much anymore. We kind of stay more in our lane in terms of a history perspective or historical perspective on things, because there are other, you know, programs that are doing some of those things now. And so, but we're still doing them. We have several every semester.
Thanks, Jody. We have a question about how has the current racial climate in America impacted the work of the Lemon Project? So I know what I would say to that, but do you want to take that?
I think somebody else can talk.
I think that we've been.
I want to hog everything.
I think that this summer we definitely had a lot of requests, and we had a lot of emails. It was a very busy summer. Usually the summers are a little bit of not a break, but they're usually less intense than during the school year. But this summer it was a busy summer, but along those same lines, our work hasn't changed. We do this work. The Lemon Project has been, around since 2009, when the Board of Visitors started. The resolution began the work of the Lemon Project officially in 2009, but we've been doing this work since then, and what we do every day hasn't changed. But I think more people are maybe paying attention and are interested in our work. We've certainly had more requests to give lectures around the university to various constituencies. What do you think, Jody? What would you like to add?
Well, I guess just that, you know, we've certainly had more students contacting us, asking for ways, you know, opportunities to volunteer and things like that, and, you know, just seeing it as kind of an avenue to maybe make a difference. And that's certainly what we're trying to do. We're trying to make a difference on campus and in the local, in the community, and nationally if we can. I mean, we also are getting a lot of calls from and requests from colleges and universities also to share what we're doing, and we're happy to do that as long as our voices last.
Yeah, that's true, especially during your allergy season.
Yes.
But I think that's true, Jody. We have gotten a lot of requests from different universities to talk and talk about the origins of the Lemon Project and talk about, you know, how we run the Lemon Project. And it's important because when we started in 2009, we were only the second institutionally funded project of our kind in the country, and our three-pronged approach to, you know, not just be in the archives but work as hard in the archives as we work in the community, I think is a model to other universities, and we're excited to be that model and to guide others as they go about the work of confronting slavery and its legacies on their campuses. So that is true. I forgot that we've gotten a lot of requests
And
from.
sometimes it's, you know, we've learned until we can tell them what not to do too, you know. We've learned kind of trial and error in some ways. And so we share it all, you know, whatever would be useful.
Let's see. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Would anyone like to ask a question verbally or in the chat that they are itching to ask? You can raise your hand or. Oh, yes. Laura, would you like to ask your question? I will unmute you. Oh, you are still muted,
Still
Laura.
muted.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Laura Hill, and I'm interested in learning more about the Gray School. Are you doing anything significant with the Gray School, or has your research turned up anything regarding that recently?
Well, I don't know if you know, was it 2018 or 2019 that we did we put a marker where the original building, we believe, was located. So there's a marker, a historic marker there now. And there's still work being done in terms of just trying to determine if we know the building, you know, trying to determine the original building, because the building that's on that spot now was not the Bray School. You know, we know that. And so there's been some speculation as to what building it might be. And so but it's down now to the scientists to figure that out. But I actually think we may be close to an answer about whether or not that, you know, the building that years ago, a retired professor, he's retired now, Terry Myers, did a very early, some early research. He was the first person who came across in the record two children who attended the Bray School, Fanny and Adam, and they were enslaved by William and Mary. And there was he did some research, and he believed that he had located the building. And so, but again, now it's up to the scientists to determine what that space is. So hopefully soon we'll know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I also shared in the chat, Laura, there's a report on a paint report on actually the Dudley Diggs house that you might be interested in reading. And I also shared it's the research section of our website, where we have a variety of reports, including archaeological reports that y'all might want to check out. We had another raised hand. Yes, hold on, Robert. Go ahead.
I wondered if you could, I was thinking of two kinds of outreach. like I'd be more interested in or how you're involved with it. I would like to know a little bit more about the kinds of outreach you do generally with the community, and also what if you have any relationship or any kind of relationship with CW with Colonial Williamsburg.
Okay. Well, let's see. I mean, we've done projects. We've done outreach with First Baptist Church. We were involved with the 240th anniversary. That group, that student group that I mentioned, that we work with every year during the King Holiday weekend. That particular year, they did an exhibit on, because that was the year, again, that was the year that the bell, CW restored the bell at First Baptist, and there was a year-long celebration of that anniversary. And so the students in that group over Martin Luther King weekend, we attended church. They met with the historians and some of the people, some of the members of the church, and talked to them. And they came away and they decided that they wanted to do an exhibit that would cover school desegregation in Williamsburg. And so they did that, and first we set it up, the display up in the fellowship hall at First Baptist, and it was there for a number of months. And then we ended up, we gave it to the church if they might have wanted to use it. We've done other outreach in terms of just working, to getting the word out to people and inviting them to events on campus. I'm blanking a little bit here, Sarah. I'm trying to think if there's other types of things we've done. In terms of CW, we have, I think now we are definitely William and Mary and CW is in relationship. And that's something that's a formal relationship is kind of new. We've done lots of individuals at CW and working with interpreters there who've presented at the symposiums, people who've come to campus for different reasons, but we have not had in the past a formal relationship with CW, but I think that's changing now.
And in terms of other things along the lines of community engagement that we're looking forward to this summer is having the first inaugural program for middle school students, a summer camp or a week-long summer program where we reach middle school students who need it the most in the Williamsburg, James City County community. And do you want to talk about some of the things we're going to work on during that program?
They'll be working on African American history, but from several different components. So they'll be learning genealogy. They'll have an opportunity to learn about DNA from a biologist at William and Mary, and they will extract DNA from strawberries and things like that. And we're hoping that there will also be maybe a law school component, someone to talk with them, because of course it's for them to, and we're also working with very closely with special collections at William and Mary. But also we're hoping just to introduce to students, these middle school students, the options, what options there are. And that higher ed is an option for them, and to sort of have them on campus experiencing William and Mary. And so I'm trying to think something else, another, but I'm blanking on it now, but just other community engagement opportunities. Yeah.
I think one thing that might be a good last question, and this isn't, the Lemon Project is involved in Juneteenth, but it's a university-wide initiative. So can you talk about Juneteenth for 2021 and how that's going to definitely happen?
Yeah, we planned it for 2020, so it's all planned, and so but it's not even just William and Mary. It's William and Mary, it's CW, it's the NAACP chapter, it's the city of Williamsburg, and so it's and I think actually it's going to be Jamestown Yorktown Foundation too, and so this will be a major celebration, and it will be something that we hope will continue and grow over time, that people will learn about, because so many people had not even heard of Juneteenth, and so that they will know about it, they will understand this history, and that this will be an opportunity to celebrate together on campus. We don't know originally if it was, the 2020 was scheduled to be at the site where the memorial will be located. But by then there will be buildings, so it'll be somewhere on campus and hopefully close to where the memorial is.
Thank you, Jody. I wonder if you have any concluding thoughts. I think we've had some great questions, and I really hope that you all will join us for our virtual programs. We can't welcome you onto campus like we would normally do, but we hope that having this virtual space will help to make people who are maybe not even close to Williamsburg can be part of our community.
Yeah, that's the one, I think that's one of the positive things about Zoom, is that we are able to reach people, a far broader reach of people. So I'm not saying I don't want to get back to in person though, but it's something that we are able to, excited about being able to do. And I want to thank all of you for coming for this hour, and your interest in the Lemon Project and William and Mary. I invite you to please, if you have comments, if there's something we didn't do or didn't say that you wanted to know more about, please email us. Or Sarah said she's going to be sending you something. Okay,
I'll send a follow-up email to the registry.
Yeah. But you can always, we are very interested to hear from you. The community is very important to us, and we want to respond to what you need and not just what we think you need or want. So please let us, please let us know. And I don't, thank you, Molly and Caroline and Jawan for being here. This is again we're a team. We're not a staff. We are a team, and so thank you all. And Sarah,
just wanted to say that our next event on September 22nd is a Lemons Legacy's Porch Talk in conjunction with Williamsburg Regional Library. And we'll be reading about a 20-page or so section, maybe less than that. Anyway.
I think it's more than that.
Okay.
Every time I assign it, my students look really pained.
Oh, but
it's a really good read.
Right. It's the section of the Lemon Project report that came out in April of 2019. It's a section on the African American experience at William Mary and historical overview. And so, read that section and come ready to talk, ask us questions about the research, about the history. And thank you so much for coming to the event today.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.